everybody on board that we're going to need to answer questions. And with that, I'll just get going through the agenda. Article 1, I think, is pretty simple and self-explanatory. It's all the items, all the positions that are up for election. This is a year in which there will be a vacancy for the select board. And by the way, I also want to thank Randy Moore for his many, many years serving on the select board. I've been on the select board for, I think it's been 14 years now. Randy was already on the select board when I joined, and I have no idea how long he had been on beforehand, but he has certainly put in many, many years, and I've learned a lot from him. And I want to thank you, Randy, for all your time and effort, and I wish you the best with all your free time.
Thank you, Ted.
In any case, so Article 1 is simply all the elected positions. The names of people who put in the consent form before the deadline will appear on the ballot. And obviously, you're free to write in anybody you wish if there's somebody else that you want in a position whose name is not pre-printed on the ballot. But that's it for Article 1. Does anybody have any questions or comments on that?
I would just offer, Ted, that we did basically just a meet the candidate type event last week. And so if anybody hasn't seen that and wants to, it's kind of all over like the Connecting Bradford page on Facebook. It's also on YouTube, and I can send anybody a link if they haven't received it yet. It went out on the listservs.
Yeah, yeah, I see that. Monique, are you the have you been given the moderator?
Yeah, I've host. Yeah, so just let me know how you want. If you want me to.
So I can see that Brian and Angela have a hand up, so let's unmute them.
Yeah.
Hey, I was just wondering, is there somewhere that we can see the ballot before we get there? Is that going to be posted somewhere?
It is posted at the post office. There is a copy also at the bank and outside the door of the BA. I don't believe there is an online copy because of security issues. But the next time you're in the post office or at the bank or stop by the BA building, there is a copy there. There are, I should say, there are copies there at those different locations. Yeah. Anybody else have any questions on Article 1? Okay, normally for a regular town meeting.
Excuse me. Larry Coffin.
Hi, Larry.
We asked for ballots to be sent to us. We haven't received them yet. Are they in the mail? Are they lost given the situation with the mail?
Yeah, check with Sonia. Sonia told me that she's gotten many, many requests and she cannot tell you right now off the top of her head whether or not yours has been sent. But thank you for mentioning that, Larry, because I should have pointed out the polls will be open next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow, from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. But anybody who wishes to vote by mail can still do so. So call the town clerk, and they can still mail you out a ballot. And if Larry, if you would check with Sonia tomorrow morning, I'm sure she can see whether or not yours has been sent.
So it's probably a good idea if you haven't received it yet to not mail it back. If you,
I would think that I would say that that's probably correct.
Yeah.
I remember the old days when there was a slot right at the Bradford post office for delivering mail right to Bradford, but that doesn't work anymore. Everything goes to White River Junction, and I think half of it goes to Nashua before it comes back. So at this point, it probably would make sense to drop it in the box at the town offices. I see that Pete Benjamin has her hand up. You're muted, Pete. Hold on just a moment. We'll unmute you.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, yes.
Okay. The names of the people that are listed here that are currently holding the positions, are all of those people except for Randy Moore on the ballot to run again?
Bob Wing has, and thank you. Thank you for mentioning that, because Bob is another one who deserves thanks. Bob, I want to thank you for all your time serving as a lister and as our zoning administrator, and all the different positions that you have held. But to the best of my recollection, Randy and Bob Wing are the only two who have not submitted the consent form to run again.
And has there been anyone to, that is on the ballot for the lister position?
There is not.
So has anybody stepped forward to say they want to? I mean, how would you know that?
Well,
How would other people know that?
yeah, it's not up to us to publicize someone else's campaign. So I really can't speak to that. But if anybody is interested in running, they can make their intentions known. I will say that one thing we are considering, and there's been no decision about this, but if nobody does run for the open lister position, we might look at contracting that work out. I should mention that another lister has recently submitted a resignation. So there may be some changes there. So we might be looking at contracting that out, but that's not a decision that's been made at this point.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Are there any other questions or issues? Pete, your hand is still up. Did you have another question?
No, how do you get it down?
I'm going
I'll
to
get
guess.
it. I'll get it done.
Okay,
Okay. If there are no other questions on Article 1, and I want to thank you folks for those questions because you brought up a whole bunch of issues that I had intended to cover and then they slipped right out of my brain once the meeting started. We can move on. And I was going to say, normally Article 2 is to hear and act upon reports of the various boards and commissions and offices. And obviously that's not something that we can do by Australian ballot. But if people do have questions on any of the reports that are contained in the town report, and there's an awful lot of them, if anybody has questions on those, this is a time to ask them. I wasn't planning to go through each single page and call it out the way our moderator typically does. But if you do have a question on any of the reports that are contained in the town report, this is a good time to ask. Okay, and I will, before we conclude the meeting, I'll ask if anybody has any questions about that, in case you want to page through during the meeting, any questions come up. So the next article will be to determine the time and manner of collecting the monies. And that's, as I think everyone who's attended our town meeting knows, there's this long convoluted motion that I usually make that essentially says the money will be due and payable on such and such a date. And that would be October 31st this year, I believe. Bob, I see that your hand is up. Monique, if you could.
I haven't taken mute, unmute controls away from anybody, so everybody's been doing it themselves. Bob, feel free to unmute.
Are the, lost my train of thought there for a second. Are the dollar amounts on that you're asking, are they on the ballot? And is all this long preamble of when things are due, is that on the ballot as well?
Yes, the long preamble is Article 2. And that basically says, shall the money be due and payable on October 31st and with an interest rate for the first 3 months of 0.5% and an interest rate of 1% per month thereafter. So that's all Article 2. Then Article 3 is the dollar amounts. Jen, I see that your hand is up. Go ahead and unmute yourself. And
I hadn't looked at the calendar until tonight, but October 31st is on a Sunday, so it'd be November 1st.
thank you. And okay, you're right. And I'm certain that we did word it that way on the ballot because we did check.
I didn't look, but
Yeah, it'll be. But anyway, the bottom line is Article 2 will contain that. It'll be a yes, no question for the long convoluted motion we normally do when the taxes are payable. Article 3 will contain the dollar amounts, and it'll be for both town and highway. We did check, that is legal. It has been our custom to vote the town general budget and the highway budget separately. But we checked, that is not required by law. And in order to minimize the amount of tabulation that's done, we did combine those two. So Article 4, are there any more questions on the budget before we move on?
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Larry.
I couldn't seem to find where we were very much with sidewalks in the coming year. Am I missing it? Or?
There is, yeah, it's
The highway budget, and it didn't seem like there was significant amount there.
No, it's on.
yeah, it'd be the sidewalk reserve fund. We've got,
So where do I find the sidewalk reserve fund?
oh, I'm sorry, it's on page 25, Larry. On page 25, the second item down, stormwater discharges, and immediately under that sidewalk reserve fund. And we're appropriating 40, or we're
Thank
proposing.
you. I didn't find that. Thank you.
So yeah, you're right, because sidewalk repair, it looks like we're only budgeting $500 under special roads. But are there any other questions on the budget that the select board is recommending?
Ed, it looks like there's a question from Justina.
Oh, yes, go ahead. Hi, Justina, go ahead.
I'm not totally sure if this is the right time to ask the question, but what does it mean if in the budget, someone who's asking for town appropriations, I'm specifically looking at Safeline, it's listed as 0 in the budget, and then they're not listed under any of the articles about town appropriations. And my understanding was that they had applied and submitted a letter, but I don't see that either. On page 22 is where they're listed in the budget.
Yeah, let's see here.
So they must just have gotten left out.
22, hold on.
Oh, you know what? I might be looking on the wrong page. No,
No, she's right.
am I right?
1,500.
You are correct, and I'm not quite sure that I can say that that was a mistake. We certainly, typically what we do, and this is nothing that's mandated by state law. It's just a practice that we've been following. If an organization has been, is one that the voters have supported time and time again, and their request $1,500 or less, we typically include that in the recommended budget. If it's a new organization or an organization that is asking for more than $1,500, we ask them to submit a petition. I am not sure how or why
It looks like it was just my mistake.
we zero that out. But we do know that they do important work, and I'm making a little promise here that I need to be careful what I promise, because it depends entirely on what the voters approve. But I think it's fair to say that we will work hard to try to make good on that oversight.
Okay, is there anything, because they asked me to be here just in case anyone had questions, is there anything that I should send back to their executive director that she needs to do?
It would probably be helpful if we got a letter saying that you don't understand why that budget was zeroed out, just so that we have a paper record of it. But
Yep.
But yeah, I think that was a mistake, and I don't know. And now that I'm looking at that 0, I don't know how it is that we didn't see it, but that's.
Well, you got a lot of line items here, so
Yeah.
I will just let them know to send a letter about it.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention, Justina.
Thank you
I
very
see
much.
that, I see that Diane has her hand up. Diane, can,
Yeah, hi. I was just wondering what you just said, Ted, about the 1,500 spot, $1,500 request. It would go into the line item for 2021. And I was wondering, Space on Main is requesting 1,500, so wouldn't that also go into the 2021 budget?
Diane, for the Space on Main, I submitted late kind of on purposely so that it would go into the warning rather. I wanted it to be publicly warned rather than just into the budget.
Oh, okay. Well, I fully support it, Monique.
Thanks.
You're kind of you are our downtown right now until our other buildings get filled. So I just want to state that I do support it, and I didn't know if it should go into that line item, but thank you.
Diane, what was this, what was the other organization you were asking about?
I'm following up on what Justina just asked about, and I thought you replied to her that if the request was for 1,500 or less, it would go into the budget item, the 2020 budget.
But for an organization that the voters have supported numerous times. And if I remember correctly, last year was the first year that the voters did support Space on Main.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Are there any other questions?
This is Sharon Jagir from Visiting Nurse and Hospice. I noticed that we're 0.2 on the budget for 2021, but we're in the article, or Article 11.
Right, because you requested more than $1,500.
Oh, but there's others listed on here that are asking for more than 1,500 that are listed in the budget.
I think that was because they were late getting their petition in. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. So there's only two on there that are less than 1,500 or $1,500 and less, and it's for the Space on Main and the parade, the 4th of July parade.
Danny,
On the warning.
I was going to say your mic. Could people hear what Danielle was saying? Because she's in the same room, but she's not right next to my computer.
It was pretty clear, Ted.
Okay. Okay. All right. Just want to make sure that people could hear what she was saying.
So those two organizations are on the warning just because I got their paperwork in late, and we have certain deadlines that I have to have the select board approve all the appropriations for at a certain time. And if it's after that time, then they go directly onto the warning.
All right. Any more questions on the budget? And again, yes, Sharon, I see that you're, oh, okay. I'm sorry, that wasn't a hand up, that was a thumbs up. I get it now. Sorry, I'm a little slow on the uptake here. All right, any other questions on the proposed budget? And again, remember that the budget is not the budget until the voters approve it. If there are no other questions on the budget, we'll move to Article 4, which you may recall we voted on this last year, and I'm very embarrassed to admit that one of the choices that we offered, and it was actually the top choice that everybody picked, turned out to be an illegal date. And the reason for that is we asked if the choice that won was the first Saturday in March. And it turns out, and I didn't know this at the time we put the warning together, but under state law, town meeting can be held on the first Tuesday in March or any one of the 3 days preceding the first Tuesday in March. And as it happens, because town meeting is a Tuesday, is Tuesday, March 2nd, the first Saturday in March falls after town meeting day, not one of the 3 days beforehand. So even though people said they want to meet the first Saturday in March, turns out that's an illegal date. So we're re-asking the question. And this time the question is, will it be 3 days before the first Tuesday in March. So that'd be the Saturday before town meeting day, or town meeting day beginning at 6 p.m. or town meeting day beginning at 9 a.m., which is our traditional time. And for those who are saying, you know, well, why we voted on this last year, why are they asking again? That's why. Are there any questions about that? Okay. Article 5 is, shall the town of Bradford establish an ongoing capital fund for the tree warden to remove diseased trees or trees that pose a hazard to public safety on town-owned property or in a town right-of-way? And shall the town appropriate $2,000 in 2021 to be placed in that fund? This question is prompted by the issue we have with the emerald ash borer. We have an awful lot of ash trees on town-owned properties. We have an awful lot of ash trees on the rights of way on various town roads. And the tree warden did a survey last year and did some number crunching, and the numbers are pretty scary. To take out all of the ash trees, which we think are likely to be attacked by the emerald ash borer, will cost an awful lot of money. It costs far more to take down a dead tree than it does to take down a live tree. And so the emerald ash borer, as far as we know, has not been found in Bradford yet, but it's in many surrounding areas. So we know it's coming. It's not a question of if it comes, it's a question of when. So we want to start addressing that problem sooner rather than later. And the question is, shall we create a capital reserve fund and put some money in there so that the tree warden has some resources to start taking down trees that appear to be posing a threat? Does anyone have any questions about that item on the agenda? Okay, I don't see any raised hands.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Larry.
What do they do if they take down a live tree? What do they, is the wood then destroyed, or can it be used for some purpose? Or
Oh, it can be used for firewood. And if I may, I think, and I would need to double check this, and I'm sorry I didn't research this, but I believe that if it's on town-owned property, that's one issue. But if it's on private property, but it's in the town right of way, so that we take it down, the tree, the wood is actually the property of the property owner. And so if somebody, you know, we have to take a tree off of somebody's private property, that person can use it for firewood or do whatever they want with it. Did that answer your question, Larry? Okay. Peep, I see you have your hand up.
Yes. So the way I understand it, you're asking for this money, this $2,000 to be put on in the fund, in a special fund, but that's not included in the money that we voted to raise and under Article 3. Is that right?
That is correct. That's correct. That would be all the articles that talk about appropriating money beyond the budget question would increase the amount that we spend this year by the amount that they have. So the answer is yes.
So the Article 3, if you vote on it and that's yes, and that's a specific amount of money, how can we add money to it without changing that vote on Article 3?
Well, that's the same way we do every year at town meeting. We pass a budget, and then there oftentimes are separate questions about the creation of a new capital reserve fund, and all the petition articles for various nonprofit groups are in addition to the budget that was passed. And if I remember correctly, the wording of Article 2, which is the time and manner of collecting it, says and any other sums that may be voted at this or any subsequent town meeting.
Well, then that makes sense then. Okay. The other thing about your emerald ash trees, if the tree is on private property, why is it the town's responsibility to take it down?
If it's in the town right away and it's in danger of falling on the road and it poses a hazard to people on the road, then it becomes the town's headache, even though it's on private property. If it's in the town right away and it's leaning away from the road, that's not going to be a high priority for us to remove. Although, you know, if a tree is infested with the emerald ash borer, you want to take it out just to slow down the spread of that invasive insect. So
thank you.
And also, if I may, Article 3, because I have a ballot in front of me, does include what Maroa was asking about. Says the total amount to be raised, and it says together with any additional sums that may be voted on by this ballot at any subsequent meeting for the town general fund for the purpose of 2021. So it's not, the wording is in that line item.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So that when you vote separate later, it gets added to it.
Yep. Brian and Angela, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I assume that by setting up the ongoing capital fund that if it's not used, it'll sit in that capital fund for the following year. Is that
That's
accurate?
correct.
Why we're setting that up?
That's correct. That's the difference between a capital reserve fund and a line item in the budget. Every year, people ask us, if I don't use all the money that's in my budget for the year, does the money go into the budget for next year? And the answer, of course, is no. If it's just a routine, let's say, computer maintenance. Let's say we have a good year and we spend $500 less on computer maintenance than it would cost. It's not like we put that $500 someplace special. But in a capital reserve fund, the money does build up year after year after year.
Yeah, I just wanted to make that clear. And then I guess the second question related to the ash trees is, I wonder if there's a way that we could do that. I'm wondering if there are companies out there that are going to be taking down ash trees, because I believe that you can take them down, and so long as they're kiln dried, they can then be shipped. So I'm wondering if there's any lumber companies out there that would be willing to take that, take those trees down to lower the cost.
I'm sure. Well, the simple answer is I don't know. It's a really good point, and that's something that we will definitely need to look into. Not that I think a lot of wood's going to be shipped from here to Kentucky, but my understanding is that the Louisville Slugger Company is getting pretty nervous because they make all their baseball bats out of ash. And my understanding is that they are stockpiling, a 50-year supply of ash wood for making baseball bats.
Yeah, I was just kind of wondering if we could find somebody who would take those trees down and maybe have landowners where they're on private property in the right of way sign a waiver that that they don't want the wood, and that would kind of direct the lumber company to where they could take them down and save some money there. So I just didn't know if you had researched any of that.
But
I have not.
I think that's the whole theory behind it's cheaper to take them down live than it is dead and rotting, because they're valuable if they're live.
That's right.
That's the whole theory behind taking them down before they die and rot.
Okay, are there any other questions on Article 5 regarding establishment of the new capital reserve fund for dealing with diseased trees? And you'll notice that the wording of the article, it's not specific to ash trees, but I will say, as I said up front, the problem with the emerald ash borer is what motivated us to consider or to ask the voters whether or not they want to set up this fund. If there are no further questions on that, let's move ahead to Article 6, which is shall the town of Bradford establish an ongoing capital fund for match money for various grants which may become available through the year, and appropriate $1,500 in 2021 to be placed in that fund. And let me just explain the thinking behind that. As people know, once the voters approve a budget, we consider ourselves to be pretty well locked into that budget. And in recent years, the federal government has made money available, and it usually gets funneled through state agencies. So we learn about it from the state agency, but it's federal money. And it becomes available without any real advance notice. So we'll get a notification, let's say from the Department of Public Safety or the Department of the Agency of Commerce and Community Development, that there's money available for purchase of, for upgrading of police radios, or for, for whatever purpose it is. But the money needs to be spent before the end of the federal fiscal year, which is September 30th. And a lot of times we would be interested in pursuing that money, but of course, all grants require some degree of match money. And if it's something we haven't budgeted for, then a lot of times we don't have that opportunity. I do think it's likely, there's no guarantee, but I do think that with the stimulus that's being worked on in Washington right now, I think it's fairly likely that there will be a fair amount of federal money available coming soon. And chances are good that it'll be the sort of thing like, the application is due in a month and a half, and the money has to be committed by the end of the federal fiscal year, which means that we don't have an opportunity to put that grant match money into next year's budget. So admittedly, $1,500 is not a whole lot for match money, but the question is, shall we establish a reserve fund that would be specifically to use for the required match money when grants become available that we didn't know about at budget time? And that's, it's I don't have any sense how much federal or state grant money is going to be available in the next year or two, but I personally think it's something it would be nice to have that as a backstop in case grant money does become available. Does anybody have any questions about what the intent is behind that? All right. And then the rest of the articles, until we get down to water and sewer issues, are articles that were brought in by petition for appropriation for various community nonprofit groups. Oh, I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. Danielle just reminded me, we didn't do petitions. Organizations that have been funded in the past were able to just submit a letter, and we put that in the warning. But just very quickly go through them. The Article 7, Northeast Slopes is requesting $2,500. Article 8, Central Vermont Adult Basic Ed is requesting $3,000. Article 9, the Clara Martin Center is requesting $4,413. Article 10, Tri-Valley Transit, which was formerly the Stagecoach transit system, is requesting $8,000. Article 11, Visiting Nurse and Hospice is requesting $13,500. Article 12, the Space on Main is requesting $1,500. Article 13, the Woodsville Wells River 4th of July Committee is requesting $500. And on Article 14, the Old Church Theater is requesting $10,000. So I don't know if there are any questions about that. As I say, each one of those will be voted on individually. So if there are no questions there, Article 15 will be, and this
Ed,
article.
I'm sorry, did I have a question?
Go ahead.
This is more of a parliamentarian question. What happens if a particular one of those requests is turned down? What is the recourse that organization has? Can they petition for a special vote?
Larry, that's a good question, and I guess, and I would need some guidance from the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, but I forget what the threshold is, but if the requisite number of registered Bradford voters signs a petition requesting that we hold a special town meeting to consider an issue, I believe we're obligated to do that. So I think that's the answer. Diane, I see that you have your hand up.
Yeah, I used to be on the board for the Old Church Theater, and I think there's a few people that are present tonight. I was just wondering if they could give the voters that are present a little update on supporting the Old Church Theater and where they're at with the renovations on the old building.
Is there anyone from the Old Church Theater who can give us an update? Yeah, Paul, I see you've got your hand up. Go ahead, unmute yourself and. Paul, you're muted. Oh. Maybe I mean, he was literally raising his hand. He didn't have the hand up thing. So.
Paul, let me try to see if I can ask you to unmute. Did that do anything?
Justina, can you give us an insight on that?
I'm no longer on the board, so I don't have any updates.
Okay, thanks. I guess Paul's just talking to himself.
No, he might be trying to call in.
Okay, thanks.
Looks
Yeah.
like he's doing something. Oh. Paul, we can't see because your background, your digital background's interfering with it. Zoom. Oh, let me unmute. All right, I tried to unmute you as well, but can you call in maybe in a little bit? Okay.
Okay, while we try to work through that technical glitch, let me ask if anybody has any other questions regarding any of these. I call them petition items, but as Danielle rightly pointed out, this year we didn't require a petition signed by X number of voters. And if there are no further questions on that, we can move ahead to Articles 15 and 16. And I would remind you, as I think most people are aware, those two articles can only be voted on by residents of the Water and Sewer District. But Article 15 will be to elect a water commissioner, and I can't remember who's up for. Leonard, is Leonard Dobbins. Oh, it says right there, Leonard Dobbins. So Leonard is, and I believe he has submitted his, yeah, so his name will be on the ballot. And Article 16 will be to adopt a budget for both the water and the wastewater systems. Brian, I see your hand is up.
Is that going to be a separate ballot?
Yes, there will be a separate ballot for residents of the water district. Yes.
Thank you.
Ted, I have a copy of the ballot, but the problem is you can't see it. It's going backwards. But if anybody wants to get a gist of what's going on, there's your candidates. And then you probably can't see here, but that's the articles with the yes and no on the side.
Yeah.
For the first two. And then on the back is all the ones we just talked about, the town meeting one and all the other special articles there.
Yeah, that's a good point. Don't forget to flip your ballot over, whether
Correct.
you vote at home or you come into the town offices next Tuesday. Don't forget to flip it over because there are questions on both sides.
And to answer Brian's question, the water and sewer one's there with Leonard as your candidate. And then the one below it is the dollar amount to vote on for the two budgets.
Yeah.
Just a rough idea.
Yeah.
It's my wife's.
Did
I'm here.
Paul, yeah, Paul's called in.
oh, let's okay, yeah, let's go back to Old Church Theater. Paul, we finally got Paul on the line.
Yeah, I don't know what my Zoom application is doing, but it wouldn't let me press any buttons, including unmute or accepting unmuting. It's never done that before, but it is what it is. Yes, Old Church Theater. First off, the amount of work that we have accomplished to date is that we have done all the structural repairs on the wooden building itself that are necessary to make it structurally sound. We have also had the architect draw up all of the plans for giving us a new foundation, which involves lifting the building up, taking out the cracked and crumbling concrete foundation that we currently have, pouring a new foundation and also a drainage plan for the entire property, because the whole reason that the foundation is rotted and crumbling is because we have a lot of water back there. So we have several requests in for grants. We do have a planning grant in the amount of about $40,000, and about half of that has been used so far to draw up these architectural plans. We have a couple of other grants which are in progress, some of which require various amounts of matching funds, some of which we already have, some of which we don't have. So obviously we're doing various amounts of fundraising to be able to meet our matching portion of the grants. The plan is to complete by the end of this summer, lifting the building, doing the drainage, and putting a new concrete foundation under it. We also have the architectural plans for how the interior of the building is going to be renovated, although that will not happen this year. And the plans for what we're going to be doing within our new space once the new foundation is in place. Because downstairs will be the green room, there will be a workshop for building flats, there will be furniture storage, prop storage, costume storage, brand new utilities in terms of new electric and new heating and so forth. So we've got a lot going on this summer, and obviously funds are at a premium to accomplish this. It's not going to be a cheap thing. We're looking right now at the whole project, and I don't know how many years this is going to take, but the whole project is going to be about 1.2 million. So I'll be happy to answer any questions as well as I can.
Anybody have any questions about the renovations of the Old Church Theater?
Perhaps the other thing I should add is that, you know, the long-term goal for this is for this to be a publicly accessible arts space, not just for theater, for it to be a year-round space. We don't do that now just because it would cost us far more to heat it than we could ever possibly take in revenue for a show were we to attempt winters in that uninsulated building. But the ultimate plan is to have it year-round and to be available for other organizations besides just Old Church Theater to be able to do various sorts of things that can be done on a stage with a lighting system and a sound system and so forth.
Okay, thank you for that, Paul.
Ted, there is a question in the chat. I'd change the chat to just me just in case. Can you clarify if Bradford has supported all the places listed in Articles 7 through 14 in previous budgets?
Let me see here. Except for, oh yes, the only one that we have not supported was the fireworks for the Wells River Woodsville 4th of July committee. All the other ones have been, the Bradford voters have supported in the past.
Can I speak to that for a moment?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm on the board for that committee as well. And I'm not sure why we've never been on the Bradford town warrant for that in the past. Bradford is considered to be one of our catchment areas for that whole parade, which, by the way, is the largest parade in the North Country for the 4th of July. And we've always asked all the surrounding towns, and why we never asked Bradford in the past, I don't know. Down through Piermont and Haverhill and Newbury and out through Groton and up into Lisbon and so forth, we've always asked, and somehow Bradford got overlooked. And so we're hoping that Bradford will come on board with the rest of the towns that participate. I know Bradford sends up various floats and fire department apparatus and so forth. And then the fireworks are free admission to anybody who shows up.
Thank you for that, Paul. Okay, so that's completes the guided tour of the warning for the town, all the town meeting articles. I did say at the beginning that we'd come back in case anybody has any questions on any of the reports contained therein. And Alex, I see your hand just went up. What's up?
I do have several questions, Ted, but I don't want to take up too much time. But so I just on the generally, I was wondering if the town received any CARES Act funding and how that's reflected in the actual 2020 revenue numbers. Was there any? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Not in the past year. Not in calendar year 2020.
Okay. Okay. Oops, sorry, I forgot to do that. Okay, thank you. And then my next question was on page 18, another budget question. The insurance line for under the general fund expenses. Is that all health insurance? Is there other insurance reflected in that line?
No, that's not health insurance for employees. That is just the town's general liability insurance for, you know, in case the road crew causes any damage while they're plowing roads. I hate to even suggest this, but there was a case where somebody tripped on the sidewalk and filed a lawsuit, and that was all settled. That was covered by our insurance, but that's just liability for just running a town.
And that was a normal increase from 2020 to 2021.
We didn't consider it normal, but that's, I mean, it wasn't because we had a huge claim that put us into a different category. I think every town who participates in this is an insurance policy that's offered by the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, and everybody was pretty horrified. And
okay.
I see Jen has her hand up. She might be able to add a little more to that.
The unemployment rate was really high this year. And I think that's due to a lot of people out of work due to COVID and all that is my assumption. Is part of that.
Yeah, so we did not lay off any employees, but just because we participate in the state unemployment pool, we get to pay some of that increased insurance cost.
Okay, thank you. And just one more question, if I'm not taking up anybody's time. And I can't seem to find it, but at the moment, but I recall reading a decrease in the amount of funding allocated for the downtown trash removal. And I was wondering what that decrease portends for the town's plans on that front.
There is one trash can that we know people dump an awful lot of household trash in. And it's not one that's located immediately in front of any one particular business that's able to keep an eye on it. So we're going to be removing that. And we've been told that the contractor who collects the trash is going to be retiring. I want to say like in July. Am I right about that?
I'm not sure.
But anyway,
we basically, the select board voted to remove the rest of the trash cans at the end of March. So as of April 1st, there's going to be no more public trash cans on Main Street. And so that's what the $4,000 on page 24, it's in the highway budget under,
thank you, Danielle.
Under administration, down towards the bottom of that line.
Yes.
It's downtown trash pickup. And you'll see $4,000, and the select board just had voted to budget for the months January, February, and March. And then we're gonna pull those trash cans.
Yeah, and many Main Street businesses have said that they will be happy to pay the cost of putting a trash can in front of their business. So we're very grateful. There will still be some trash cans on Main Street.
And those businesses will be responsible for each of their own trash cans rather than a coordinated sort of town effort.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions on the town report or the warning, any of the articles on the warning? If not, I think we can, well, let me say, yes, Diane, go ahead.
That was just an applause to say thank you for whoever did the
Oh,
report.
sorry.
It looked really nice.
I'm pretty clueless with this stuff. I gotta just, these subtle differences are always catching me.
And I also wanted to add that I attended the meeting for those that are running for select board. If you haven't seen it, it would be great to watch it. It's 1 hour. And I don't know if anybody said that Pete does have to be written in on the ballot. I don't know if that was stated, but she's not listed if anybody wants to vote for Pete. So, or Marora, I never say your name right, but anyway, you know who I mean. Okay, I like to call her Pete, but the candidates did a great job, and thanks again to Monique and Alex for running that. It was very helpful. Thanks.
And I see that Pete has her hand up, so go ahead, Pete. You're muted, Pete.
I just wanted to say, I think that Monique does, not Monique, I'm sorry, Michelle deserves recognition in the book itself when it's printed next time, that she is the one that puts it together and organizes it the way she does and the work on it. I think she deserves credit for it.
That's a very good point. Michelle does an incredible job of putting together the town report, and we really appreciate everything that she does.
The other thing I wanted to ask is, was there any consideration about doing this meeting on town meeting day instead of doing it ahead of time, so that there might have been more participation?
I'm not sure. You're talking about this.
About having a virtual meeting on town meeting like we're doing right now, in addition to the Australian ballot, instead of doing it tonight earlier than town meeting day.
Well, we wanted to hold, by law, if you're doing a vote by Australian ballot, you have to have an informational meeting, which has to be, if I remember correctly, it can't be more than 10 days before the town meeting date, and it has to be at least 3 days beforehand, or something like, I forget exactly. I'm probably getting those numbers wrong, but it can't be too far ahead that people forget, and it can't be so close that it happens immediately.
Well, that was kind of my point. I think it would be better if it was closer to the time.
Well, and you know, we went back and forth on things, and we decided that holding it tonight and then posting the recording on YouTube would probably be the best compromise. But you know, there is no one perfect time to hold these sorts of meetings.
That's correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else, I'll say thank you all for attending, and please get out and vote, whether you do it by mail or show up at the town offices next Tuesday. Thanks everybody for your concern for the community. I think that's it. So take care, everyone. Stay safe.